Welcome everyone. I'd like to call the November 19th, 2019 Committee of the Whole to order. Are you good, Mike? Yep, thank you. Just like to start with an acknowledgement here. We are all pleased to be here today on the traditional territory of the Treaty 6. We acknowledge all of those who share a deep connection with this land. The City of Beaumont respects the histories, languages, and cultures of all of Canada's First Peoples, whether they be of First Nation, Métis, or Inuit descent, and appreciates that their presence continues to enrich Canada's vibrant communities. We are all treaty people. The peace treaties bind us all. Thank you. We'll move on to section number 2 here. Any modifications for the agenda? Just looking to administration.
Yes, administration would like to add item 4D, advice from officials, under point section 24.1G, which states information including the proposed plans, policies, or projects of a public body, the disclosure of which could reasonably be expected to result in disclosure of a pending policy or budgetary position. Administration would like to move this item 4A.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Hendricks?
I'd like to add an item, just recognition of the previous council.
Recognition of the previous council. Under section...
Your call. 3C?
3C?
Sure.
Okay. So we'll add item 3C, recognition of previous council. Administration good? Yeah, okay, thank you. Looking for a motion to move the agenda as amended. So moved. Councillor Barnhart, all in favor? Aye. Thank you. Unanimous. So tonight is my first night chairing the Committee of the Whole meeting, so I've been looking forward to this for a while. So one of the things that I've noticed that we do a really good job at is respectful conversation, respectful dialogue, making sure that we reach consensus where we can. But one of the things that I've seen us waffle on a bit is always looking for the acknowledgement, similar to but we're not making any decisions tonight. We seem to say that often. So I just wanted to reflect in my first meeting here to the meeting procedure bylaw 953-19 and just read the 2 sections about the committee may and the committee may make the following motions. So just humor me here for a second. So the items that the committee may do, the committee may conduct non-statutory public hearings, receive delegations and submissions, meet in closed session pursuant to the Municipal Governments Act and the Freedom of Information and Privacy Act, approved by motion including the related section of the FOIP Act, receive information from administration on emergent items, and discuss and debate policy matters to formulate recommendations to Council. The next piece states that the committee may make the following motions: to receive agenda reports as information, which is the better part of what we're doing here tonight, to refer matters back to administration or committee for review, which we've done from time to time, to make recommendations to Council, which we've done from time to time, and to move into a closed session meeting or to revert back into an open meeting, both of which we've had to do coming in and out of closed session. So in order to make some of those decisions, we do have to reach consensus. We have to have a show of hands or a nod up and down or something to that effect. So just wanted to acknowledge that as we started tonight. Thank you for humoring me on that piece. Yes.
Consensus is different than voting. So when we raise our hands, we're voting, and one person could be opposed. That's not a consensus. So what is your interpretation of that?
We're trying to achieve consensus as we go to make a decision to carry forward, I would say, is what we're trying to do in the Committee of the Whole.
So consensus is not a unanimous consensus.
Not unanimous. There, you will have to defer to, yeas and nays, and a majority pieces might be what has to carry us forward. Then that's the way that works too. So,
would it be fair to say that the voting, the way you raise your hand, isn't recorded as a vote? It's more just a directional thing. Okay, yeah, there's 5-2 units. We want X. That way.
Yeah, that's a fair interpretation of it. Yes, Mark.
I was about to say, consensus doesn't mean no dissent, does it?
I don't think so.
It means
Yeah.
Usually means consensus. We all agree.
my understanding, consensus is that people have heard.
Everyone.
And that you're able to live with the decision.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you. And I think that's the spirit of why I wanted to bring this piece up, is because often we stumble around on that a little bit, it felt like. So maybe that brings clarity. I hope it does. If not, then this is the piece that we'll fall back on, and I'll try to have it close at hand. Quick overview of our meeting tonight. We're going to have a couple of presentations, the our Centre-Ville update, and then the Arts Council terms of reference review. And then we have a recognition of the previous council. Then we will move into closed session, where we will go through 4 items in closed session tonight. So I'd like to invite the presenters up for 3A. Johannes Wong will provide the update. And we'll do the Centre-Ville update, which is broken into 3 pieces, which we'll go through. And Councillor Hendricks.
Right. So at this point, I'd like to declare a pecuniary interest on 3A. So under Section 172 of the Municipal Government Act, I wish to declare a pecuniary interest on this matter. My pecuniary interest is embedded with the relationship my company, Hendricks Construction Limited, has with a development company actively working in the Centre-Ville site area. So I'll step out.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. With that, I'll turn it over to Johannes, and can lead us through.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of council. Tonight I'm presenting the our Centre-Ville project, including 2 deliverables. The first one is the our Centre-Ville area redevelopment plan, and the other one is the Beaumont urban design guidelines for your discussion. So I have laid you a copy of the PowerPoint presentation as well as it will be on the screen. So, go to that. Yeah, thank you. I can show it from here. Thank you. So yeah, so these are the 2 documents that we'll be touching on tonight. And the agenda tonight is I'll have a walkthrough on both documents, and then there will be some discussions, and I'll talk about the next steps, how we take it from here. So first of all, I want to go back to talk about the project approach. The overall project approach is making sure Beaumont's downtown, whatever the documents are governing Beaumont downtown, will be implementing higher orders planning documents such as the Edmonton Metropolitan Regional Growth Plan and also our Municipal Development Plan, our complete communities. It also works to build on previously completed work and some of the findings, some of the studies that we undertook with this project. For example, several years ago, we had the downtown urban design concept plan that was approved by council. We had the economic development framework that was done later part of the last year. And as part of the project, we also undertook infrastructure surfacing studies and also the parking strategies. And also the third approach was to make sure this plan connect with other bylaws and policies in Beaumont. For example, the urban design guidelines and also the land use bylaw. So a little bit overview of the timeline for engagement activities. We started the project at the end of 2017. We had the RFP out, and then the project actually launched March 2018. From then on, we had numerous opportunity to work with the stakeholders, business, and also the public per se. And we had business workshops, we have design direct, we have open houses. We are all based on the we did a parking survey to complete the parking strategies. We also attended numerous community events such as the pancake breakfast, public works weeks, those things. And we had 2 particular open house in September last year just to talk about the car boundary expansion discussion with those property owners that were affected. And then come back for the administration to have a final look at the draft back in summer of this year. So with all those events now, I'm presenting you with the draft. So basically, I'm going too fast. So basically, our Centre-Ville ARP, basically it is a review and update to the originally approved Central Area Redevelopment Plan, maybe I'll just call it ARP. In 1986, in 2009, we updated that with a new Central Area Redevelopment Plan, and now this year, 2019, actually 2018-19, we are updating it again because of the growth pressure, not only in the downtown but also Beaumont in general. So, and also because during that time there were several higher level plans that was approved, so we have to make amendments to align with those higher level documents. So basically, a little bit of the history. An ARP is a statutory plan that was under the Municipal Government Act that set out a clear vision and supported by principles and policy direction to encourage and guide public development and redevelopment in downtown Beaumont over the next 25 years. And this plan has a little bit more concentration on the implementation of the plan. So the first thing I want to introduce you to the ARP is the renewed vision of the downtown. Basically, I'm not going to read that, but it highlights that we want Centre-Ville to be a cultural destination with emphasizing on the French character. We want downtown to be a destination place for people to gather. We want it to be welcoming. We want to provide warm feelings to the people coming to downtown, and we want to be creating a sense of belonging in the areas when people come to the area. And the plan also has 10 guiding principles to guide, to set the directions on the development of the land use concept, and also later on for the future development and redevelopments of the area. So basically, like in the vision, we want it to be exemplified as a cultural hub. We want to encourage intensification, not only for commercial, but also the mixed-use development, residential, and recreational services, amenities for people not only in downtown, but also Beaumont and the Beaumont areas. We want to reflect the French heritage in downtown, and we want to connect open space with the surrounding neighborhoods. So this map presents you with the land use concept for the renewed Centre-Ville ARP area. It is page 44 of the plan, which also means that it is page 50 of the package. Because I don't know if it is clear on the screen. So, but if you want, you can refer to the document. So one important element in the renewed ARP is the plan separate the Centre-Ville into 4 precincts. We call it precinct areas, and they are civic institutional precinct, downtown core precinct, residential infill precinct, and the cultural and heritage precinct. Oh, it doesn't show up the map. Okay, so you have to look at the handout. I don't know. Yeah. So, yeah. So if I go back to the map, the civic institutional precinct, actually it is this area that where the current city administration office and chemicals area would be. This area actually is the destination of choice for civic and recreational events and festivals in downtown Beaumont. It is at the intersection of 50th Street and 55th Avenue, and it serves as a gateway and the entrance into the Centre-Ville area from the north. The plan proposed a transit center in the Canico area later on, and to provide local and regional bus services for the local residents and also people from the region to come to Beaumont. And the Beaumont Civic Office and the Library Canico Regional Recreation Center will be expanded to provide a range of public services, recreational services, and interesting and public space for the residents to enjoy. And also proposed in the bigger picture is pedestrian walkways and byways to connect to neighboring neighborhoods. Maybe I should stay with this map because I know the other map for sure. The next precinct would be the downtown core precinct, and on the map it is the red area that is basically currently the commercial downtown area, and it is the commercial and employment center of Beaumont and will provide opportunity for mixed-use development and the most intense residential development in Beaumont. One of the reasons why it is intensive residential development because we want to have the population base not only to support the commercial but also to meet the Edmonton Metropolitan Region Board density requirement, the intensification requirements. The plan proposes, as you see, there is a center, there is a green space there. There is the Central Plaza that will provide amenity space for residents and accommodate a wide range of cultural programs and events, festivals for the people in Beaumont. The French character, particularly the traditional French character, architectural details will be incorporated on the 50th Street, this portion there. In the design guideline, it is referenced as the Main Street. So, then the rest of the Centre-Ville, if it is commercial, if it is institutional development, it could be contemporary French. So, but on the Main Street, it would be traditional French character. There will be new north-south vehicle and pedestrian connections to connect 50 and 52nd Avenue because of the long block there. So we would like to break it down with pedestrian access, so if there will be pedestrian friendly. There will be several wheel corridors that will be developed to provide not only amenities, open space to the residents, but also opening up the viewpoint for people to enjoy. For example, there is one that is proposed here, just south of 49th Avenue. There is a parcel that is owned by the city, and we may the plan calls for the conversion of that to a viewpoint park. And also there is one at the end of this. I think that is 47th Street there. So at the end, so there will be a viewpoint to look north and south. And sure.
If I may, you mentioned owning a parcel of land south of 49 inside the red square. What is that with the green?
Yeah, this one here, yeah.
So it's basically one residential lot,
Yeah.
by the looks of it?
Yeah.
And we own it?
Yeah, we own it. So that is why we propose it and try to, and also make connectivities to for the people to come to the north.
It was acquired as part of the last park project. It was one of the things to preserve the viewpoint from there for the vistas in that.
Yeah,
I didn't know we owned a piece of land there, sorry.
that's okay. And the 50th Street, Main Street, and 50th Avenue would be the, and 52nd Avenue would be the main portion of the commercial developments. So a lot of high intensity commercial developments and mixed use development will be there. The next precinct, is the residential infill precinct, and that is the yellow area there on the east side of the plan area. And this current plan actually expands the boundary by 2 blocks. That is everything that is west of 48 was not included in the previous plan, but this one we expanded 1 block to the east to expand the residential infill opportunities. So this residential infill would allow for low and medium density residential redevelopment opportunities in the future with or without commercial. And development should be mitigated and minimized, for example, using building heights, different types of housing, scheduled studies, traffic and privacy concerns to mitigate privacy issues and those concerns, and using the building setback. And if it is a higher building, then there will be a step back, probably, for example, above the 2nd story, you step back a little bit. So that will be not overwhelming on the ground floor. And lastly, hope you have a question. Yeah.
The extra area that was acquired from the original
Here, right?
redevelopment plan. Yeah, I'm sorry, would you say that again? Why was that done? What was the purpose of adding an extra area?
There are a couple of reasons. For example, first one is, and it is probably more practical because we need to allow for the plan to meet the EMRB residential density standards, and that is why we would like to have a little bit more residential, and also knowing that knowing that this area is closer to downtown and that will provide the opportunity for redevelopment, for infill in the mature area. So that is why we want to enlarge the area. We had an open house specifically to those residents. We invite all the property owners in the area to come to 2 days open house back in September, one on a weeknight and one on a weekend during the day. So we try to catch everybody there, and we collected some feedback, and most of them they don't object to the idea of expanding the boundaries. Some of the issues that we heard was parking, property tax, those things. But that will not be jeopardizing the expansion of the boundary.
So the objective is to increase the area available for infill and thus raise the excuse me, the residential density.
Yeah.
I believe the last iteration that we had come to us included the idea of this extra addition.
Yeah.
And then that's when
that's why
then that's what triggered the additional public engagement, and then now we're back here with the line formally extended and the engagement complete. Is that true?
Yeah, that is true. We came to the last committee meeting to basically get the feedback from council, and council we got the consensus to move ahead and consult with the residents over there.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry. Go ahead. Back to the residential infill part. So maybe just explain a little bit more from a practical sense of what this means. So I get what we're trying to do here, and trying to get that mixed use residential, commercial. But if I have a lot there and I wanted to tear it down and rebuild it, would I have to bring in a commercial element to it?
No, with or without commercial in this area.
Sorry, say that again? With
or without commercial, if they want to, for example, if they want to build, if they want to consolidate 2 lots, in your case, you want to tear down a house and then you want to build on the same lot, and if the lot is big enough to subdivide, then they can put a duplex, for example.
Sure.
Or if they can acquire the next door and expand the lot and do a little bit more. So some of the building type, they can have a ground floor commercial and then the residential on top. So they can always do that too.
So the key wording here is that provides opportunities to do that as opposed to mandates.
I think that is one of the concerns that we heard from the property owners, because most of them, they said they are not ready. But the plan is basically to give you that opportunity if you choose to do it.
Yeah, thank you.
And then the last precinct is the cultural and heritage precinct, and that is basically the Centre-Ville Church site. It is the Beaumont heritage and arts and culture, and it provides the venues for indoor and outdoor cultural events. And the plan actually have a bold vision for the area to work with the church, the parish, to do a little bit bigger, a dream, a vision for example, a farmer's market, amphitheater, those things. But we have to work with the parish because it is privately owned. But because of the landscape, because of the area there, we think that there is that opportunity. But it is always have the agreement with the parish to do it in order to do it. But the plan give us the opportunity to start the conversation with the parish.
Yes.
If the whole area is meant to be cultural and heritage oriented, the vision of the whole Centre-Ville. This area seems to limit it. I get a mixed message there. I think I know the intention, but can you explain that why this has to be that way?
I think it is the macro level and the micro level. The macro level, the Centre-Ville provides a cultural destination, so to speak. So when they come here, whether it is in the civic institutional precinct, we may later on build, I don't know, performing arts center, for example. We can choose to build that. But this one is because of the church. It is the foundation of Beaumont, and we want to expand that. Particularly with the Centre-Ville Church, the history of that site there. So it is sort of a microscopic cultural destination. But the whole Centre-Ville has that cultural elements in it.
Yeah, Councillor Margaret.
Supplemental to that, is there anything that's going to prohibit a cultural facility from being anywhere else in the Centre-Ville?
No.
Because just to me, it's just limited in terms of where things can go.
No.
I know that's not our intent.
No, the cultural, any cultural facilities would be able to situate anywhere in Centre-Ville. For example, even in the downtown core, that is the intent of the plan. But this area, like I said, is because we want to build on the foundation of the French heritage,
Right.
the church.
Yeah, just to build off of that, I think there's a discrepancy there between the arts and culture aspect that we want Centre-Ville to be a cultural destination for all those arts and whatever that looks like and takes place, which I think dovetails really nicely with our new rec facilities master plan. But then this precinct in particular focuses on our built heritage, what Beaumont's past was. And if we look at culture from that perspective, that's more that.
The word heritage says that to me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
culture brings.
Yeah.
It's got different elements though, where you have the amphitheater and different cultural events that could also happen in that precinct.
Yeah, I think this is a nomenclature problem. I mean, if we struck the word culture out of there, it gives the impression that cultural things have to go in this precinct and not somewhere else is what you're thinking, right? But I think we just struck that word out or replaced it with another one.
Or a different name for open.
Yeah, I don't know, history and heritage or something like that.
Yeah,
Precinct E.
yeah, and one other piece with this, even just with the map, right, is the light blue is civic institutional, and it's outlined in purple to outline the cultural heritage piece, right? So you have to look just backwards and forwards once to align yourself with it, because in a very quick glance it looks like all the blue is the same, but there is the purple around it, and I'm only noticing that because I'm looking at it from far. When I've reviewed it on a computer screen, it's easier. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that necessitates a change. It's just more of a look. So yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Mr. Ron. Continue.
Okay. So I will fast forward. Okay. So the next topic that I want to present to the committee is parking and wayfinding. There is a map in the plan that talks about how we want to provide parking and also how to implement the wayfinding strategies in Centre-Ville. And this is page 59 of the plan and also 65 of the package, page 65 of the package. So first of all, talking about parking recommendation. So we, like I said, as part of the Centre-Ville project, we undertook parking strategies, and the parking strategies basically to make sure the parking supply is appropriate for the density and scale of developments and full build out, of the planned area in the next 25 years. And the strategy include shared parking concept, the inclusion of on-street parking as the overall parking supply in the area, and also share parking with existing off-street parking lots, and anticipating there may be a need for future parking structure needed and planned. So, for example, if we are building the transit center in Camp Nichols, that can be incorporated with the parking developments there. So, wayfinding recommendations. So basically, one of the things that when we talk to the stakeholders and the feedback that we got is we need more visual cues and signage in not only in Centre-Ville but throughout Beaumont. Like this plan will complement with the overall larger scale Beaumont wayfinding. So wayfinding will include signs on pedestrian routes and vehicle access points for people to, when they come into the gateway, when they go to key destination within downtown, they know where to go, which road to take. We will introduce minor gateway features, for example, on 50th Street North Boundary. So we have to identify you are entering Centre-Ville already, and also from the south end and the east and west. We also want to, because of the historic heritage precinct, there are other. We want to recognize some of the heritage sites, or not heritage, historic sites, or buildings of significance within Centre-Ville, and those will be part of the signage. Just to. So coming to the end of the ARP presentation, how we implement the plan when it is approved by council. So basically, there are several things that we need to keep in mind because the implementation of a plan is through developments and redevelopments. So it depends on the regulatory frameworks and approval later on through, for example, rezoning, if there is necessary for subdivision application and development permit applications. And applications for these developments will be evaluated through the alignment with this ARP. Later on, we will look at the urban design guidelines and other policies within Beaumont. Secondly, is the strategic partnership. We are the city, both council and the administration is only one of the stakeholders, major stakeholders in the implementation of the ARP. There are other strategic partnerships that we need to form, for example, with developers, with business communities, with landowners, with just residents that are living in and shopping in the downtown to implement the visions and the policies of the plan. The next one is plan monitoring is the key in determining the progress and the success of the plan. So there will be measures developed to make sure we report back to council on how the plan is being implemented, how we achieve, whether we are achieving the EMLB density targets, those things. And the last bullet that is leveraging public investment is that Beaumont is committed to pursue necessary funding. I know that it is a sensitive topic, but it is in the plan to implement some of the projects, some of the catalyst projects in the ARP area to entice or incent the developments in downtown. So that is part of the Centre-Ville ARP presentation, and probably I will pause it here just to pause.
I think so. I think we should pause here and just kind of wrap up questions and thoughts that council may have on this piece before we move on to the urban design guidelines next. So I'm happy to start, or I'm looking for anyone else who has any questions or that they'd like to bring forward. Councilor Swain.
Yeah, thanks. Very clear overview of a pretty complex document, so thanks for keeping up with us with pages and all that sort of stuff. I guess generally, I think it's a really exciting plan. What I struggle with, and you talk about an implementation strategy, it's a very high level overview, but I guess the struggle I have is how do we actually get there? So conceptually, this looks great, and I'd love to show folks this and say, this is what we want to get to, but what can we do to get us here? More specifically, we've got this vision here. Like, do we need to go to the areas? We've got strip malls that don't align with the vision, right, of what we're trying to do. Do we specifically go and target those? Do we talk to residents? How do we actually implement this?
There are implementing a plan. There are several ways, as I mentioned. there is always that public leverage investment. There are small-scale investment that the city may take is, for example, the wayfinding strategies, because one of the biggest or loudest concern that we heard during consultation, people try to avoid coming to downtown nowadays is parking, for example. And during the parking strategy, the report showed that there are enough parking supply in the area, but it's just that people, they want to park in front of the shop. And they don't want to walk even, for example, 5 minutes to go to their destination. So I don't know whether the wayfinding strategy, putting up signage would work, but at least that will be ease off a little bit of the psychology, just to reduce the aims of, oh, I need to walk, I don't know how long to reach from here to over there. So, and also not only the signage from where to and from a destination, but also signage on available public parking. For example, we have some parking over at the CCBCC, and it is walking distance back to the downtown core. So, and not many people are going there to park and come to shop. There may be a little bit of another investment opportunity for the city is to improve that parking area. So, and putting up signage, there is public parking available, and this is only short distance from here to the mall, to the church. So I think that these are small investment, but hopefully will have big results. And the other thing is we can talk to developers, and these are the opportunities for downtown. We want to entice for mixed-use development, higher density, so that you can come for commercial and residential development in downtown. So it is through word of mouth, the administration, and Robert, so we may be able to work with the developers and even some landowners that are sitting on the land. There are a few underutilized lots in the area. So there are all these redevelopment opportunities that are available. It is just that inertia to basically push them.
Yeah, so I guess if I could,
Please.
that's where I'm going. And there are obviously some key developments, key parcels that unlock this whole thing. Right? And I'm being careful with my words here, but yeah, and I realize this isn't going to happen overnight. You're putting in the long-term vision to be able to achieve it, but yeah, I'd be curious, and if this gets implemented here, some more of the proactive strategies to try and push a couple of these things to try and spark this, and whether the administration or council, if there's anything for us to do there. So,
yep.
Second question I had, if you go to page 50, if you don't mind, please. Sorry, you have to jump out of the presentation.
Oh, that is the land use map.
Yeah. So I think you've addressed it, but I just wanted to be clear. Along 50th Avenue there, kind of west of 50th Street, obviously there are residences there that line up that take you through before we get up to the CCBCC. So, there were some questions and concerns raised about what that meant in terms of what they could do with their property, in terms of expansion, upgrading, all that sort of stuff. I just wonder if you could comment on where you're at with that to as much as you can in this environment here.
Okay. This is a redevelopment plan, and redevelopment plan, basically we have visions to develop, for example, you see that we want to, we have visions to have a larger block type. First of all, because of the length of the block, it is very long large, very long narrow large. So it is not really conducive for redevelopment because it is long and because of another limitation is there is an approved 50th Avenue streetscape plan, and there is also this limited access that is approved by council. So with everything there, we try to accommodate everything, and we think that one of the way to develop this area is to have bigger, broad developments. So that will require some consolidation of parcels together. For example, I believe that this may be 2 lots there, 2 or 3 lots there already, and 2 or 3 here. But a plan is a plan. It does not basically limit the opportunity if the current owners, if, for example, any owners there, if they want to just redevelop their own site, the plan does not limit that and say, no, you have to buy the other 2 lots.
Okay, so you got there, that's what I was
But this is the ideal.
Yeah, and I get conceptually what you want to do, but I guess maybe I'll ask you more directly, and you choose whether you can answer this or not. We heard concerns from residents initially about this. How did that go? Can you provide a summary of where we're at with that?
After history.
Through the chair to Councillor Moncoswain to answer that, the concerns were more with the land use bylaw itself than it was with Centre-Ville. Centre-Ville as an area redevelopment plan has been around since the 80s. And the downtown urban design concept plan was envisioned to be able to redevelop. It's incredibly hard to redevelop like the really narrow parcels, right? So you have to amalgamate. What they were, some residents in the area were concerned about their ability to continue to use their property as they currently did and then be able to potentially expand. Any redevelopment or whatnot needed to be in conjunction with this, which would have limited their opportunity. Say that they had a fire and their building burnt down, then they wouldn't be able to rebuild. So those properties have been addressed through an overlay within the land use bylaw, and those rights are still respected. Through this process, that doesn't take that away. They would still be able to rebuild if they were part of that overlay layer. And then if they chose to, then they could go with this new one, but we will not be forcing that into happening. But future redevelopment elsewhere would need to be in conjunction with this plan.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
Because there's
Yeah, go ahead.
because there's a potential trap there, right? Which I think you acknowledged and recognised, as far as I can tell, which is that okay, so your nails down slightly differently to what was originally built, and that has to be the case because of it wouldn't be a redevelopment plan otherwise, right? You're replacing what was already there with something new. But the trap is that then, as a result of that, we can end up in a position where I can't do anything to a property in this area if I'm the owner, because I won't get any permission to change anything because it no longer conforms with the rules, and that's largely essentially overcome with the overlay process that you just described.
I would say that it is, and then the other aspect is that the way that this version of the Centre-Ville area redevelopment plan allows more flexibility for smaller parcels than the other one did. The other plan was very prescriptive. You had to have very long, like you had to acquire other people's property. So we see that there's a vacant parcel along 50th, just across from St. Vital Parish. It was the chateau on the hill. Was torn down, but it wasn't able to be able to redevelop, partly because it was just this tiny piece, and the existing plan at the time called for it to actually develop with other parcels. And if the neighbor isn't willing to develop at the same time that you are kind of stuck. So we are allowing for smaller parcels to actually be developed. You can have more, what would that be, organic forms of development. Instead of having to have these large, they have to have a consistent street face, which is what you're seeing with the new maintenance developments. We're allowing for people to have smaller sites and still be able to have redevelopment within the plan. So a lot more flexibility than currently exists.
Yeah, thank you. And then one of the pieces that I had brought forward and some feedback that I had received as folks were engaged and working through some of the open houses engagement sessions is that still guide into the future to allow changes. So, Councillor Barnhart.
Thank you. So totally different topic, but
Sure, I think we
it's
can
okay.
move on. Yep.
It's still on the plan,
Yep.
and like really good. And I fully support the direction that we're going in. It's somewhat in the details that my questions are right now. In the guiding principles, which page 35, some of them appear to be quite high level direction setting, and then occasionally there's some, like the one I'm going to mention, that really specific. And I'm just wondering what the
Page 35 of the package, no, of the plan, sorry. Page 40 of the package.
40 of the package and 35 of the plan. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So the one I'm focusing on right now is develop a bike route along 55th Avenue connecting Go Bay Park and Agriculture Either Point School with surrounding neighborhoods. I don't know why that one area for the bike route. I guess that's my first question. And then I wonder, when it's that specific and it's in a guiding principle, is that telling us, we have to do that? Or is that something that is optional? Just see where I couldn't find it. There's so much here.
Okay.
Yeah, 3.2.
Identify connecting.
Under number 7.
Yeah.
Ability.
These are one of the several strategies that would improve the mobility and the options for wayfinding. And also the plan, what we heard from the residents in the area is the area lacks not with limited connectivity to the surrounding neighborhoods, and that is why we are proposing. If you go back to the I think it is map page. Let me see what page. Oh, actually, go back to page 50 of the package, 44 of the land use map. There is that proposed bike route that is connecting the two neighborhoods together because of the of that concern. Yeah, and also it aligns with the working. We are working also at the same time. We are working on the new TMP, the Transportation Master Plan. It also talks about connectivity, so active transportation, and because it is part of the inner ring road, so we thought that is a good opportunity to seize the opportunity for improved pedestrian and bike connections with the neighboring, and that is why we want to make sure that it is the guiding principle and it actually reflected in the development policies in chapter 5 of the plan.
Just to underline it's not that I have any difficulty with what we're doing. It just seems like we're picking one area, and I don't know why we're not looking at all areas. It sounds like you know some more detail here than I know. I'm sure you know a lot more detail than I know. But I just don't know why we're zeroing in on that one.
Okay.
And if you can assure me that one is,
More
as you said, the most important one, I'm fine with that, but I don't know that I've seen that information. So, and I'm not opposed to what we're doing, but I think it's not at the high enough level for this
I see what you mean, yeah.
If you understand what I'm saying.
Or maybe just
It's very
bring it
specific.
a little bit higher level there. Yeah.
It may be the first one, but it just, that specificity is concerned.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good feedback, thank you. Anyone else have any questions? Councillor Stone?
I'm actually just following on. Unfortunately, I'm just lost after all my surface, so I'm going to have to go from memory. There's a reference to changing bylaws to allow cycling on the sidewalk, which apparently is being considered, which was news to me. Could you find me the page for it, please? I think it's 28.
Okay, I remember reading that.
Page 29 of the agenda package, 23 of the document. Cycling, but yeah. And maybe don't don't zoom in. Yeah, just scroll down just so we can see.
I guess, yeah, what else specifically
Consideration
refers
to
to?
legalizing cycling on sidewalks.
Well, there is a likelihood that cycling is occurring on the sidewalk. I'd say there's a certainty.
It is not technically legal. Beaumont is currently giving consideration to legalising cycling on the sidewalks. That surprised me because it's the first I'd heard of it. And I don't think it's a good idea. I think there's a very good reason why pedestrians and cyclists should be kept separate, at least on sidewalks. I think if we want to encourage access, cycle, bicycle access, pedestrian access to all of these districts, all these precincts that we've just described, and I think we do. I think that's a good idea, and I think we need to do what we can to facilitate it. But I don't think putting bikes on sidewalks is doing that. I think if we want to do that, we need to provide the proper cycling for cycle lanes, multi-use trails, cycle paths, whatever is the appropriate infrastructure. I think mixing bikes and pedestrians on a sidewalk is a recipe for disaster, frankly. Yeah. And I speak as somebody who cycles several thousand kilometers a year.
That's right.
Through the chair to Councillor Stout.
Yes.
Definitely understand your concerns with the transportation master plan. There had been discussion about allowing for slow cycling on sidewalks just within a specific block in Centre-Ville, because we aren't going to be able to retrofit bike lanes onto the existing configuration of 50th Street with the road right away as it is. So allowing for slow cycling for users of all ages would actually allow people to get some connectivity in that short as a link. So not really that you would necessarily want that throughout town, and technically right now it's actually not permitted necessarily on the multi-use trails in the right.
Yes.
Like we got to look at that language and the.
Yes,
that's where that's coming from. So not that we would like all adults to cycle on sidewalks. We definitely want to encourage the bike facilities, but in this instance here, we won't get them.
Okay, I think we're on the same page then. But I just want to make sure that that's clear. I certainly don't want. Well, it's a blanket. You can bike on the sidewalk all the time. I'm thinking there'd be all sorts of problems arising from that. I think there's also issues with enforcement as well. Yeah, in that case, one of the issues, we're getting down to specifics.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think that the feedback is that last sentence is a little bit leading for this document, perhaps, and as we work through the transportation master plan, I think we'll get into exactly where you're going.
Yes.
And there's a point that I wanted to raise in there as well that probably isn't for tonight, but for the transportation master plan, and Johannes kind of broached the subject earlier, and that is the whole idea of the prioritized pedestrian route east and west on 50th Ave and the approved 50th Street or 50th Avenue streetscape plan. I know that will be a hot button issue when that comes forward with pictures and designs and such. Just because I've received a lot of feedback about that individually. So again, just for awareness tonight, I don't think we need to dive into that too deep. So okay. Does anyone else have any comments or questions on this section? Mayor, yes.
Yeah, no, I just want to get talk about the transit center.
Transit center.
Because we know that parking is we got parking pressures in downtown Centre-Ville, and this sort of what we use them. But as density increases, we get more people coming down there. The plan speaks to improving or expanding recreational facilities at the Ken Nickel and whatnot. And so, just paint a picture to me what that transit center would be purposed for, because when we talked last time around, it was park and ride. And I'm not entirely sure a park and ride in the heart of downtown, when we're having parking pressures and expanded intensification or densification of people. I'm still not sold that it's a good place for a parking ride, where people come in and fill up on parking and go away. When we have so much unused land.
Yeah, the transit center being proposed in the Canical, the site there is a mixed-use building. It is a transit center. It consists of some parking and also maybe some residential developments on top. So it is not just a parking. It will be everything. There will be, if it allows, it will have commercial developments in the building too. So it's a mixed-use building, and the area actually is medium to high density, and the number of stories there is proposed to be 6 stories high. So it is quite a high building in downtown. So there are all these opportunities that we can get to not only the transit center. We use the term transit center because we want to emphasize to seize the current use of the site, because there is a transit terminal there, and it is logical to keep on there. But there are all these other uses that would be combined with the development.
So parking lot is not really what you envision? Because I agree that we have to have some type of transit down at Centre-Ville, especially as we look at things like bus on demand and getting people more mobilized. But and so where so buses come in and people can walk and do different things. So I guess I'm still stuck on the park and ride concept. Are you proposing a park and ride concept?
Yes.
Yeah, could be. Yeah.
I'm with the mayor on this one. You said it makes a lot of sense. I would challenge that. I think, maybe for community service within Beaumont, that there's a stop there type thing. But encouraging people to come in, I think whether it's on the north side of Beaumont or on the west side, we're going to get people to, if they're going to use the transit to get into the city or to the airport. We'll have a conversation on that later on. But telling people to drive into the middle and keep chasing it. Just like today, I drove from my house up here and parked in the camp middle, and my car is there for the whole day. Still there. And there's people right now who are going in and using the brag right now. Right? So I think the mayor's point is we should be getting that out of there, so that if you're coming in specifically to use the downtown facilities, that's what we should be encouraging parking.
Okay. We're looking at meeting density targets and such, then, the square meters required to park 45 vans in the morning to use that piece might become a challenge. Taking up space.
Okay, that's your point.
That's good feedback. Okay. Any other questions? I have a final question. What, if any, are the budget implications for this initiative moving forward into 2020?
Into 2020, short-term wise, it would be, for example, those small investment on the signage, wayfinding. That will be the first projects that we will be undertaking.
Okay.
As developments coming on board, them may require some infrastructure upgrading, particularly higher density for the propose some upgrades to the water, because there is a low water zone in the area. It's okay now, but in order to meet the fire code, we may have to improve the water main there.
So in 2020, it's fairly minimal.
We don't need that now.
Maybe some wayfinding and such, and anything else that would be accelerated would be alongside an economic development opportunity or something. So
yeah. There is a list on at the back of it's page 74, page 80 of the package. There are some projects that are listed. Those are some of the short-term things. Mm-hmm. And short-term doesn't mean next year. It is between 0 to 10 years.
Okay.
So
great. Any more questions? If not, I think we can move on to the next piece, which would be the urban design guidelines.
Good. Continue. So the Beaumont design guidelines. The purpose and the design guidelines and some of the design principles of what we call the BUDG, B-U-D-G, the BUDG Beaumont Urban Design Guidelines. Basically, this is a document for developers and builders working in Beaumont to understand the values and qualities that make this place unique in the Edmonton metropolitan region. And this sets the expectation of the level of the quality of different types of developments within Beaumont that the developers will undertake. This slide. Yeah. So the design principles of the design guidelines, there are three major principles. The first one is history and identity. Basically, it is the French heritage is one of the key things for Beaumont. When we went out to meet with our stakeholders, this is one of the things that the community told us they want to keep the French heritage. So they are saying that the architectural quality should reflect in the buildings, the signage and the which express the French, the root. So that's why we still incorporate the French characters in the urban design guidelines and in the Centre-Ville area, particularly the Main Street. The second qualities principles that we are using in the design guidelines is quality and durability. So basically, it is the choice of building materials that developers would use on their building. It is attention to details on, for example, building facades, the street furnitures that they are using, lighting and signage, and also it is particularly important for the all-seasons design concept. So this is not a design only for one season; it is also for allowing winter activities. So it is basically on the longevity of the buildings, longevity of the facilities, and the durability of that. The third element that we focus on is accessibility and adaptability, because things will change building, there will be different uses. So this would allow for greater livability for the people within Beaumont, and it will provide universal access and creating people for all people, including people with disabilities. So we talked about this a little bit already. So the French character remains important in Beaumont. That is what we heard loud and clear from the community. And so we also identified there is a spectrum in identifying the French character from the traditional side to the contemporary. So the traditional, of course, we can always go back to the church, that's the St. Vital Church there, but then also coming down to on the contemporary side, for example, this building is one of the remarkable buildings exemplifying contemporary French design. So the next one is, how does this urban design guidelines apply in Beaumont? Basically, it will apply in all of Beaumont. The green areas on the map is what we call the Beaumont Y, and the orange in the middle is basically Centre-Ville ARP area. So it will apply differently, a little bit differently for Beaumont Y developments and developments within Centre-Ville. The design guidelines also applies to the private realm, that is the private space in front of the building. It includes the site design, how they use the landscape to enhance the aesthetics of the site, parking and access, how they go in and out of the site, building design, the lighting and the signage. So I'm not going into details of each elements there, but these are the categories that will be governing how development would be evaluated on the merits of those elements, site design, landscaping, parking, access, those things. And then, there will be specific designs will be applying on those two areas, Beaumont Y and Centre-Ville. For Beaumont Y, here are the building typologies that will apply specific guidelines to these buildings. For example, civic and institutional buildings, that is to set the example for private developers. Commercial and business park development, Beaumont-wide, medium-density residential, mixed-use, and industrial. Because at the MDP, there are some industrial lands within Beaumont there. Within Centre-Ville, in addition to those building typologies, we also included the Main Street, because Main Street is a very high-profile, that is the center of the downtown Beaumont, so we want to have a higher standard of design guidelines for Main Street, and that is the portion of the 50 streets there. Like I said, I'm not going to go into details on how those design elements, what those are. Implementing this strategy is through two ways. One is through the development application review. So a development permit application comes in, the development officer will look at the design guidelines, comparing it to the development proposal, and make a decision on whether they are complying with the urban design, and if not, then what will the developers will have to do to improve it. And if there is something that, for example, require variance and everything, then there will be the design review committee to do the evaluation and make a recommendations to the developers to comply with the design guidelines. So those are the two ways that will be implemented. And I think I'm coming to the end. So any questions on the design guidelines?
Yes, Mayor?
I don't really have any questions. I got some general comments.
Sure.
Thank you very much. These are great, and I like the fact that they're actual guidelines, and there's thresholds for automatic approval and other design review. And if you really want a wide variance, there's the design review committee you can go to. So it really does take into account that we want to keep our French heritage and our French flair, but should give our development community and our builders enough flexibility to be able to bring their project to market. So that's a good job well done.
Yeah, thank you.
Councilor Mokasway?
Yeah, just reiterating, I think there's a lot of, I had my own confusions initially around what we're doing within Centre-Ville, what we're doing within Beaumont. So I think you guys are really clean down and make very clear on exactly specific, and obviously predictability is important. I'll make the statement and I'll get you to maybe speak to it. So the perception, subdivision perception, that the old French guidelines or these guidelines increase the cost on developers. That gets transferred down, resulting in high rates. It costs so much more to put on a peak roof and all that sort of stuff, and that results in higher lease rates, more empty space, all that sort of stuff. Can you just speak to that?
Yeah, and actually these guidelines, we took those into consideration, and that is why the design guidelines allows for more contemporary character design elements that will be included in the development. Yeah, there will be a little bit more stringent requirements on the main street area, but even within Centre-Ville, other areas in Centre-Ville, even in the downtown area, there will be the opportunities for developers not to get away from the French design, but use lesser details. For example, the steep roof or maybe the metal roof or whatever. So it will minimize the cost of the development, and we are making those considerations. But at the end of the day, it is the community's request. Basically, that is one of the biggest desire to keep the French character. So that is why we need to keep that. But we are trying to streamline the process and also try to use different material types, even though they have to make sure that it's durable, that is good materials. And also we are allowing using, for example, colors to exemplify the French characters there, not just the design. So hopefully those will help.
I appreciate that. I think that's an important conversation that the community needs to have is, we want to have the French theme, but also then the concern, same people having the same concern that, the cost is too high. So I really like how you've broken that down and provided that flexibility there. And I think I'd be interested in having this conversation in a couple of years just to find out, what those specifics are, what we're seeing from the economic development side of things and what we're hearing from developers on how this is impacting them, and of course they're gonna have their own bias on it, right? But I just think that continuous check-in on this. And, I didn't see it in here, but I've seen that you guys are going to be looking at this continuously. This isn't going to sit up on a shelf and collect dust. So I just encourage those type of reviews. So thank you. Good work.
Thank you.
Councilor Margaret?
Thank you very much, Chair. Ditto, great stuff in here. I'm really glad to see the direction that we're going. Just a question I have, and I'm sorry I haven't found everything in here that I'm looking for yet. But in the general sign requirements, it talks about, I think it's only for civic and institutional buildings that they must have their signs in both French and English. Am I correct in that? And it's on, page 38 of 184. hard to maneuver through these documents as quickly as I like to.
Yes.
Signage guidelines.
Which page did you say?
120 of the package,
Yeah, 120 of 313.
and page 38 of the document.
The document.
I'm just
You're almost there.
Computer froze. It's thinking too hard.
It says essential, and I just want to make sure that we aren't putting, again, barriers in front, but at the same time, I really do appreciate the French and English, but I don't want to see it scaring away the commercial businesses either, so.
No, that one would just be
specific.
for the civic
Yeah, for the
institutional,
civic,
yeah, for
yeah.
ourselves.
Which would be like the CCBCC,
Fire hall,
schools, et cetera.
schools, yes.
Yeah, and I do really support that, so that doesn't also appear in the commercial
No.
district.
No, yeah,
Thank you.
you're right.
Your signs are allowed to.
I'm
be-
just comparing the other
Yeah.
building topologies to make sure.
And I like where you've outlined discourage, because those are some of the things that take away from the good work of the people in the community that, then someone comes in and it's flashing neon lights and it distracts. So, yeah, I think this is good.
But what about the barbershop little twirly?
Sometimes it's okay, but
That's classic.
I know. Let's get one.
it's not a French.
That's right. I'd like to add one more question. One of the things that's come up a few times in design and look forwards has been the idea of accessibility and adaptability. And just the question that I have is, where are we getting our guidance to ensure we're including the correct details into this plan for that?
I think those are the several ways of doing it. One is on the parking and access guidelines. To make sure, for example, on the thing is how you arrange the pedestrian access from the parking lot to the building, where to locate, for example, bicycle parkings, and even in the wintertime, where you will be able to load your snow down, those things. So, and where you put your waste receptacle, those things. So those are some of the things, and also the site planning, where you situate the building, how you orient. The front entrance, if you're, for example, even if you're on the corner lot, how you maximize exposure, how you maximize accessibility from the public roadways. So those things will be able to help.
Yeah, I assume there's some planning perspective to the access. We in council, in the previous council, I heard comments around just physically the height of the buttons that you have to push, or the orientations, or the square feet of concrete around a post to make sure that accessibility can be around that side of that post to be able to hit that button. So I just want to make sure that we're getting the strong guidance that we need, and that there will be planning aspects, but there are also functional, logistical aspects that need not be overlooked.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the parking spaces and whatnot, we use principles of universal design and then barrier-free design guidelines that exist in Alberta. So working through those and incorporating those where possible into site planning and making sure that there's sufficient right way and that sort of thing for all the different uses. So that would also then go into our general design standards as well. But yeah, they're based on universal design and accessibility. And those are also some national codes as well that exist regarding those. So.
Yeah, perfect. And I think the reason I ask is because I think it's important to bring forward that there are design guidelines for that. We're not just checking with a guy or a gal to see if it's okay, right? Like there's a good reason and rationale for it, because it has brought up a fair amount of concern in the past. So thank you. Any other questions on the urban design guidelines? Councillor Snow?
Can I just make a comment?
Yeah.
I just wanted to share an experience I had a few years ago, which in relation to this, regarding the French guidelines, which I think are really important. And obviously, the first thing we have to have is a residential buy-in that we're going to continue doing this. But I think it's important for another reason. A couple of years ago, I took a road trip to Vancouver, shared the driving with my wife and daughters, and we stopped in Red Deer and Airdrie and Banff and Golden and Revelstoke and Abbotsford, and I'm driving and sleeping, and
and not at the same time. And sitting in the passenger seat, keeping my eye on the driver. And we stopped at a number of, you stop in Tim Hortons and Starbucks and places like that. What struck me about all these places, you're in strip malls, they're all exactly the same. There is no sense of place on any of that journey. And if we want to preserve our French heritage, and if we also want to promote Beaumont as a destination on tourism might be too strong, but as a destination on location, then we have to make it different from everywhere else around here, because otherwise we lose those things. That was all, and so I'm really glad to see it still, and I think it's really important. But I think we also have to address the concerns of does this discourage businesses from coming in? They find it either too restrictive or does it impose too much of a cost burden? And that's the balance we have to keep, which from what I've read, you're struggling to do.
Okay, thank you.
I think there's an aspect of decide who you're going to be and then be that. And I think the continuity between the plans has done nothing but improve as we've brought all these plans together, and they're talking to each other well. And they had to start somewhere, and we're getting the conclusion to that. So I'm very happy with where we've got. Any more questions on the urban? Otherwise, we can move on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just one more thing. I want to the next steps. So basically, after tonight, we are planning on bringing the ARP to council for first reading on December the 10th. And after that, we need to send this plan to the Edmonton Metropolitan Region Board for their REV approval. And then after we receive the approval, we will be coming back for public hearing and second and third reading. And in between that, we are planning on community engagement activities in late January, just to go to the public one more time, just to make sure we get the final feedback from them before coming back to council. So, and we are anticipating that process will take place until maybe April 2020. So we'll bring that back to council for public hearing, second and third reading in March or April.
Councillor, this way.
Sorry, you're talking to me. When you talk about engagement, I think one of the hardest things with all these large plans that I keep hearing, and maybe I'm reflective of myself as well, and I'll just call it residents, is just trying to understand the complexity of all this, right? So the challenge for you and our communications group is how to explain this to the community. This has got a major impact for us and how we move forward. So thinking about ways to use graphically designed communication tools to be able to try and sell this. I know we've seen some really good ideas that going forward, but just sending out a link, and I know that's not what you're suggesting, but sending out a link to a 250-page document saying, what do you think, doesn't help. So we've got some great comms people here that can help assist do that. So I just encourage you that we should, to Martin's Councillor Stout's point, we should really be celebrating this once, so if we get it through. So let's make sure the community understands what we need to do. So.
Yeah.
Yes.
We'll do our best.
I'm looking forward to seeing the public presentation hearing sessions for this. So I think it's vitally important that we get as much input as we can.
Perfect. Well, yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say to that end, stay tuned for January 22nd, 23rd, where you can come find out about all the great things we've been doing here. So those are the days we're proposing for our public engagement evenings. So
Perfect. Yeah, thanks for sharing
put
that.
that in the calendar.
Okay, with that, I'll look for a motion to accept the report as information. Mayor, so moved. Yeah. Oh, in favor? Carries unanimous. Thank you.
Take a little bit longer.
And with that, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda tonight. Beaumont Arts Council in terms of reference review. Welcome Ms. Cuthbert to present to us.
Hello, good evening. Yes.
Thank you.
Tonight.
Expected the whole place to be held.
Yes.
Everybody.
A lot of work went into this one.
All right.
Lots of labor already. Yeah.
Good evening.
Thank you.
Tonight we have the Beaumont Arts Council terms of reference for your review. Questions?
For sure. Just pause. Yeah, sorry. Pause.
Sure.
Redesign.
Yeah, just half a second. We'll wait for Councillor Hendricks to sort himself out here.
Closer to you. It's better report to our responsive sound.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Take her away.
No problems. This is the Beaumont Arts Council Terms of Reference Review. We're looking for your questions, feedback, and direction. On March 12th this year, Council approved Policy C38, the development and practice of artistic and cultural expression. In this policy, it stated that an Arts Council should be formed. Mayor John Stewart, Councillor Mark Stout, and Councillor Stephen Van Newkirk were appointed and worked with 4 members of the Beaumont Society of the Arts, along with the facilitator, to create this Terms of Reference. The Terms of Reference does align with their strategic plan, livability, welcoming diversity, and celebrating cultural heritage. Art and culture in Beaumont is also supported, of course, with our policy, C38, as well as the draft recreation master plan. I have the Terms of Reference here. Would you like me to go through each section specifically?
I don't think so. I think we've had the document. 3 of us have been through the creation of it, and I think we could probably just open it up into any questions. I would preface the questions by echoing some of your sentiments. There was, some really good sessions and a lot of good discussion, and we didn't leave any of the discussion behind. We reconvened a couple, 3 times to make sure that we got it as solid as we could, and open it up to any questions from the councillors. Councillor Bernhardt.
Thank you, and John, well done. Really glad to see this is coming to fruition. Probably you've had this discussion, and I just want to find out where it is in here, or whether you have an idea how you deal with it. Because we're looking for membership from the community, and the people that are concerned and interested are going to be very much involved in the arts primarily, how are we going to deal with the community, with conflict of interest if it does come up? So what's the plan going forward with someone who comes from perhaps a dance society and then they come forward for a grant? What are we going to do to make sure that that is looked after? I know there are ways, and you probably discussed it. I'd just like to know that.
Yeah, there was a discussion around the table a couple different times. We went back and forth on that a few times on how we should deal with that. Ultimately, the Beaumont Society of the Arts will be choosing the membership is how it will work through application process, and they do want to look at different members from different forms of art and culture within the community. So they are knowing that they want to go out and they want to recruit somebody with a dance background, somebody with a theater background, somebody with visual arts. We spoke about film, we spoke about all the different forms of art that there would be out there, and so they are wanting to go out and recruit in some of those different areas. Does that help?
Not exactly. Maybe I'm getting to a fine point, but it's about granting and who makes the recommendation and how that comes forward.
Yeah, the discussion around was because there's 11 people on this committee, 9 voting members, and the PSA chair and the council tiebreakers. If your group comes and you're looking for a grant, the expectation is you would recuse yourself from that vote.
Does that need to be in the terms of reference?
That's a good question.
That's a good question.
I don't know.
Just so that it's fairly done, because you'd hate to have that not happen one time and then happen for 7 times.
That's very fair.
Maybe just
I don't think the clarity hurts.
Should be built in.
Yeah.
build in the conflict of interest.
Yeah. We did have some robust discussion as well about.
That's how I would deal with it as well. That's what I would suggest.
Yeah.
I think you need to codify it.
We did have some robust discussion around the hats and taking your hats on and off, and we talked about the committees that council is on, and best interest of the committee and stuff, and that was fairly lengthy discussion that we had a couple of times, and so I think bang on. I think that level of clarity would help out.
Yeah.
Any other comments on that? Councillor Moncaswing?
Yeah, just curious your thoughts on how you landed at 11. I think it's
Sorry, let me laugh, but that was a 3 hour.
For sure. So I wasn't in the room, so I'm curious. I think we're seeing some of our other committees struggle to get quorum, and I know whenever these things kick off, there's a lot of energy and excitement around it, and but the concern is that it potentially drops off. So summarize 3 hour conversation in 30 seconds.
Sure. Yes, this was a very lengthy conversation, and some of it was looking at the different areas of art and culture that there is to trying to make sure that there is an opportunity from someone from all different areas. So, like I said, there's dance, visual arts, theater, music. So we were trying to incorporate a space for all of those people to have a voice at the table.
Yeah, there's 7 recognized forms of art, and so we got 7 from there, and 2 members at large from the community as a whole, and then 2 members of council. How we got to 11.
Yeah,
Sorry, not one. Yeah, wasn't also one.
That's right.
Sorry.
so thank you. And I guess this is maybe a bigger discussion, but I think we need to start thinking about putting some onus around showing up to these things. And I'm not calling out this committee in particular, but like I mentioned before, we're having some others, and what that does for the membership and the frustrations for people showing up to these meetings and not making quorum, and then what do you do with it, right? So I think a bigger picture discussion for us at some point is how we try and look at that, whether there is if you don't make X amount of meetings, then you recuse yourself, something like that. So
Yeah, I believe we built a few things in here under membership.
282, if you wouldn't mind. Brandon, would you mind 282, please? Thank you.
I think of 7H,
Right at the bottom, please.
Yes.
Thank you.
okay.
And then quorum is really simplified. You're just trying to remember what it is.
50 plus 1.
Yeah, of whoever's there.
And we did talk a bit about that, showing up, and we brought, council was able to bring forward some examples of, what you're talking about, is that it's, we're advertising and it's hard to get. But as the mayor said, we really backed up to the 7 different art forms and wanting to make sure that there was an opportunity for representation.
Thank you.
Councillor Dallon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Great work, as mentioned earlier. This is a great piece of topic that shows our council support. The arts can be very, honestly, put in this document here, which is great work done. My only question is on 7H. I know from my recent experience with the committee, getting quorum is challenging. So I don't question 7H, but will it be enforced? I guess is the question I have. Is that I'm not sure who is the committee chairman. If someone doesn't come to 2 second meetings out of 4 in the year, they get a letter saying, thanks for coming, but you're not coming, so you're done. Will that actually be enforced? I mean, it sounds good on paper, and I approve I support the idea of 7H. The only question is how easily will it be enforced? Just maybe some thought process around that, please.
Yes, I believe that would be a part of the chair's role, is to enforce that and to work with the rest of the committee. I think part of this that we put in place is so that everyone does understand what their role is coming to this table. We wanted to make sure that was really, really clear as far as their responsibilities. And I think everyone was on board that absolutely they want people at the table that are going to be there and going to show up. So I do believe that, with this group, that they will follow that process.
Thank you. Follow-up? Yes.
Follow-up, please, if we could, on another topic.
We'll just sec. Is there anything more on 7H before we move on to another topic?
Yeah, I wanted to.
Okay, Councillor Barnhart, 7H, sure. Thank you.
Yeah. I sit on the Housing Foundation, as you know, and that is one of the requirements is the 2 meetings and then you're off. But there's an additional sentence or requirement that a member can be voting to be allowed to stay on if there was a good reason for them not being there. So the board, the committee can itself agree before the 3rd meeting. For example, if someone is hospitalized or someone has a vacation that they've been planning for 10 years or whatever that might be, that there's some way, because I would hate to see good members lost because something came up and they just couldn't avoid it. So maybe for a discussion for the committee itself, the council, but that's very restricted. 2 meetings is tough if you are, meeting monthly and you're going away for 6 weeks on a major event, or you have a hospitalization, which is in my case one of the things that happened. So I would just say that I understand your intent. I think it's a good one, but maybe giving the council some opportunity to allow it to make a special consideration, because this doesn't say that, but they could build that in.
Yeah, good input, and I think we'll maybe just leave that with the administration to maybe hone that in a bit and focus on that as the committee is stood up.
Yeah, and but they're not meeting monthly, they're meeting once a quarter. Is there 4 times a year, so.
Just saying, build in some escape clause there because you don't want to lose your really good members who tend to be the people that are busy in every committee in town. So, you know, don't want to certainly lose them.
Thanks for your patience, Councillor Dalek. You're up.
Actually, thank you, Mr. Chair. I found my answer to my question after I put them off. So,
No
okay,
problem.
thank you.
Yeah. Anything else on the terms of reference? I think it's exciting to be at this point, and I really think that the room was as open and honest as it could be, and everyone made sure that there was their say was out there, and I don't think there was much holding back. And I think that. Sorry. Excuse me. Yeah. So thank you. Anything more to say on the admin side?
Nope, we can make these adjustments.
Okay. Thank you for your time and thanks for the presentation. Just looking for a motion to refer the committee of the whole refer the Beaumont Arts Council terms of reference review to administration for further review. Councillor Stout. Yeah, sorry, I was looking at we'll go with Councillor Stout. Okay.
So moved.
Okay, all in favor?
That was weird.
It was. That's okay.
I've been called way worse than
You guys are so quick. Same time. Okay, with that, I'd like to move on to the walk-on item tonight from Councillor Hendricks. We'll call it 3C, recognition of previous council. Floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just very simply, I'd like to do a presentation to past council members for the recognition of their work within these chambers and certainly within this community. And we've followed a tradition of process and style and type, so I'd just like to keep that up. Set a date, have the reach out to those people and say, hey, listen, here's the invite, and then we have a proper plaque and other things that we can provide them recognition for their time and effort. So.
I guess a question to admin. Are we aware of the process that has been followed in the past? We want to make sure that admin gets good direction on this tonight. Any comments at all?
I'm sure we can find out. I'm personally not aware what staff will be, so
okay.
If that's what you want to do, that traditional, then absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Just looking for some discussion around the table on the idea that has been put forward here for recognition for the previous council. Comments, questions? Councillor Stoke.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted just a clarity as to who this is. The previous council, just the last 6 councillors and mayor who aren't currently serving.
Previous term.
The previous term. Yes, that was what the word I was looking for.
Yeah. You're not meaning to go.
We're not going back forever.
That's great.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So direction for administration would be to
create the platform where we can A, have a date set, and B, have some kind of recognition by way of generally some plaque outlining and some comments and thoughts at the presentation regarding the work that was done by others.
There's some ways for recognition of previous council members as has been done in the past.
Yeah, and we'll be able to figure out the timing on that, whether it be at a meeting or a separate event or something that might, an event that might align with such a presentation.
Generally, up to this point, it's always been at the council meeting, at the start of the council meeting.
Start of the council meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
yeah,
I think this is a really important thing that we do, and to show the level of importance, I think it would be worth council getting together prior to the session to discuss who wants to say what. So I don't know how we want to do that process, but I guess my point is I just don't want to show up on a day and shake hands and say thanks. I think there's, I'd like to give it some thought and want to know what my role would be in that, and I'm sure others would want to do that as well. So I agree with Councillor Hendricks. Let's identify a date, make sure it works for the previous council, but let's make sure we take the time to do this properly. Thank you.
Councillor Dunlop.
I agree with the idea, and I'm glad we're doing it. It's deserving, and it's appropriate for us to do this. My only thoughts might be, you mentioned in the past experience, it tends to be at the end of a council meeting I was hoping that we could consider the idea of maybe doing some kind of a reception afterwards, but not having sit an entire council meeting, just have a reception. So would you be willing to consider, or not, that's fine. I just thought we could have a ceremony, if you want to call it that, and a little reception after we can all mingle with the past serving council if they wish to.
Yep.
Or if you think it's more important to do it from the council meeting and be done with that, I'm okay with that. I just thought maybe a little social aspect would be nice, but then that'd be at the end of the council meeting, which means that would be perhaps sometimes 2 or 3 hours later.
Right.
Depends on the day.
Right.
You know, so your thoughts on that, or that can be just discuss at a later time. I just throw it out there.
No, typically it's been at the beginning, but hey, maybe we shake it up a bit, do it a little different.
Cool. Does administration have enough direction here? Or?
Not at the last point now. We need to determine what do we want to do. Do we want to do it at the beginning of the council meeting, or do you want to do something more social something? We would need that, otherwise we're going to have to come back to you for that.
That's right. Yeah. At this point, you know, we might look to the past to keep it succinct for this point being. I take Councillor Danluck's approach or a different approach. Councillor Monkoswing.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you there.
No problem.
I think it might be worth reaching out to the past council and seeing what if they want the social side of things. I think let's check in with those folks. So I think generally you know where we're going, and so we can reach out to the previous 5 folks and just get a sense of what they prefer.
Is that
Spirit of your intent. And if we talk about a bit of a social event, we generally have a bit of a meal prior to council, maybe.
Perhaps that's a good.
Bring them in early, right, and then have the council meeting.
That'll make it easier then. Just easier.
Mr. Schwartz.
But just building off of that, I can see why you would have done it at the beginning of the council meeting, especially now with our live streaming, and now it becomes more public.
Yeah.
Whereas if you did a separate social, you're not going to have anybody in the gallery, correct? And you're not going to stream it. So
I'm suggesting a social probably after the meeting, but then 2 hours sitting there just waiting for the social. Maybe doing the beforehand. Share a meal with them beforehand, and then at the 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock council meeting, do the presentation. 2 birds with 1 stone and gets it done. If the reception is welcome.
Yep. I think we've come up with a plan. Ms. Anderson, you got enough down there to make a move? Okay. With that, I think we're complete that item there, and we will. I suppose we'll have to make a motion to do what we just said, which is contact the whole council, get them in, get some consensus, and pick a date and all those good things.
Right.
So just vote quick, show your support. Thank you. Unanimous for that one. I think we brainstormed a good one. Indeed. And with that, we will. Oh, sorry. Moved by Councilor Mono-Swain. Okay, thank you. And with that, we'll move into a break before we head into closed session. Okay, perfect. We'll do a motion to move into closed session. Councillor Stout, all in favor? Aye. Thank you. And then we will take a moment to reset the room and take.